Are you on? out there. Uniters, can you hear me? Please let me know. I'm back and I'm hoping this works. Uh, I see we have a few persons looking on. Come on, get with me, Uniters. Let me know if you're hearing me. Major done. Are you hearing me now? Is it Major or Major one done? Yes. Can you hear me? Let's drop your comment. All right. It's a white knuckle ride. So this morning is not the usual tone cry. This morning it's about us talking. All right. So one person is hearing. Thank you for joining us, Zain. All right. So here's the story. I live in Westmoreland, and when I talk about Westmoreland, I'm talking about center of the Western region. Okay, right in the area where Saint Elizabeth, Saint James, Manchester, Hanover converge. Right in that area, all hill. Right, I love it there. The only thing is that we're lacking every amenity you can think of. Internet barely works. There hasn't been any water collectively in our pipes for 4 years, despite the fact that we pay property tax. The roads are atrocious. I keep spending large sums to fix my vehicle front end to the point now where I'm just gonna get rid of it because it's unsustainable. But here's the story. Yesterday I was out meeting my constituents, and it was great talking to all these persons, these farmers, these tradesmen who are looking for better for them and their families. And I walk into this small bar where there's about 5 persons gathered in the Sunday evening having a drink and our version of karaoke, old school reggae. And I have my UIC shirt on and I introduce myself. And for the first 2 words out of my mouth, somebody stopped me. I say, yeah man, you know how long me look for me this man here? And the president we didn't want to see, Now you can imagine my sense of pride to hear that all the way in the hinterlands of Westmoreland, despite all of the major mainstream media networks on this island ignoring us, that we were still recognized. And you know why? It is thanks to dedicated viewers like yourself. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing the word. Now, now that that story has passed, here's what I've noticed. The two colonial parties have not announced a local government election, but they're out in full force campaigning. There was a town hall in my area last week by one and a cookout by another. I won't mention who did what, but I'm monitoring. So now what we can see is that the ruling party is spending a lot of money doing the things that they should have done over the past 2.5 years that they haven't done. So I see roads in my area being fixed. All right, the scheme that I live on, the road, the curbside has not been cleared in well over 10 years. I personally cleared my gateway and my neighbor cleared his. And well over 10 years, those curbsides haven't been cleared. They are being cleared today. Right? Yesterday they started, they're continuing today. Right? The roads were so horrible that vehicles were afraid, taxi drivers were afraid to drive on it. They would refuse to travel on it with people. The roads are overgrown. And I was invited by a group of community members during the lockdown to join a work group that would go out on Saturdays and Sundays and clear the roadside. And we did about a 10-mile stretch of road, both sides, because it's country, so both sides of the road is overgrown. And we did that every Sunday during the lockdown period consistently and clear the road. Now we had plans to do other things to fix the road to make it better for us, including bringing heavy equipment to clear the road. But the politicians were shamed in the action, so now they are fixing the road. So what is that story telling you? Citizens who stand up, who take things on their own and push for change can get that change. How does that translate to the UIC? Simple. If you join with your counselor, be a part of his group of support, and spread the word and talk to, not fight, not argue, but talk to other people to join the cause, then the word will spread. Just like that guy all the way in the hills of Westmoreland, I was glad to see that UIC was out, knew about us before we came out, and was looking forward long ago to speaking with us. And it was a lovely conversation. I have his details and I will remain in touch. That's how we get this movement going. People are hungry for the change. People understand now that it is a trick. Because look at it. During the past 2 years when we were locked in our houses, and most of us, especially those who are hand to mouth, as we would say, those who earn their living on a daily basis, while you are locked in your house and unable to earn, you still have to pay your property tax. Your GCT still remain high. Okay? So we face the brunt of the government's assault on a daily basis because it's not the government that works for us, the government that attacks us. So we face their taxes and their trickery and their thievery every day. Now, all these things that they should have been doing for us, they were suspended. They weren't done. But now that they want your vote, these are getting done. I see the road in my area being fixed. Somebody let me know what they see happening in their area, though that an election is looming. Something that hasn't been done in the past 10 years. Right? When I came back to Jamaica, I was here for 2 years and there was no water in my pipe, and I get a water bill every month consistently, but no water in my pipe. Okay, and there's a story about the water I'll tell you in a bit. And just before the general election, pipes were flowing and bursting with water. And right after the election, less than a month after the election, water was gone. And it has been gone for the past 2 years. During the quote unquote pandemic, when you were being told to sanitize, wash your hands, my community, my division, and all the surrounding community served by that water system was totally devoid of water. We pay an average of $10,000 per truckload of water to put in our tank. And we all have tanks. But yet we get a bill from the NWC on a monthly basis to say we owe water bill. Now, I'll be honest with you and say that I haven't paid it. Why I haven't paid it? Why should I pay for a commodity that I have not used? They'll tell you that, oh, it's a service charge because you're a customer. What if I was a customer and water is life? You would have given me water. So if you want me to pay my water bill, then please give me water so I can pay for it. Here's the story I promised to tell you. Several years ago, when we had the same water problem in the community, I reached out to the NWC, the distribution manager at the time, don't remember that name, and I asked if we can have water in the community. He said, well, there's an issue with the pump, so they can't pump water, but they will truck water to the community. I said, no problem. How do I get a truckload of water? I should go to the post office and pay something like $1,500 and then give them the receipt number and they'll send me a truck of water. So I did that. The water came. I mean, it took a few days, but the water came. I catch, paid that $1,500 for a truckload of water. I got a water bill on top of that. And I was like, what? I bought a truckload of water. There's no water in the pipe, so I get in water bill. So I called back that distribution manager and I asked about that water bill. And he told me, Well, you're a customer, so you have to get a bill, and the bill is mostly customer charges. Right? What customer charges? And I looked at the bill and I read through it. On the consumption side, he had a small figure, but on the wastewater side, he had a figure. And when I asked about it, so why do I have a wastewater bill? He said, no, we just put it on there because when you consume, you also create wastewater. But I said, well, listen, I don't live in a city, I live in the country. I'm not connected to any septic line, any wastewater lines. How you charging me for wastewater disposal? And he went silent. He couldn't explain that. So take a look at your bill, especially if you live in a country area where you're not connected to a wastewater system, a sewage system, and see what is on your bill. Because they are charging you for the wastewater you supposedly generate, even though they're not managing your wastewater. As a matter of fact, they're not managing Jamaica's wastewater, period. They just hold it, separate it, filter it, and then distribute and then discharge it into whichever landmass or water body that is closest to them. So that is the kind of thing that we face. As a customer, we have no recourse because there are no laws protecting us. As a people, we have no recourse because the government that should work for us doesn't work for us. They work for the big money interest, like those banks that donate to the maximum, which is $31.5 million to their campaign. Those same banks that they can't tell not to take away your little money with fees, telling you that you have fees for them to hold your money. The same money that they take and lend to somebody else at an interest rate of 12 and 15%, and then give you, okay, how they rob us blind. So the system isn't designed to empower us. The system isn't designed to protect us. The consumer laws mean nothing, the land mean nothing, and the politicians have rubbished it and laughed at us. 5 members of the government turn up at an event that is supposedly not supposed to happen. And bear in mind that UIC doesn't support their illegal definition of the law that says that they can tell you to stay home. The Constitution, as rubbish as it is, that's why we will change it, says that you have that right. And if you have that right, who can take it from you? It is a God-given right. And that's why we will always stand up for the people. Now, let's look at another factor in this, another facet of it. When you have a government that represents you, does that give them authority to do anything they want? And we see that throughout the world. Different government does things and you hear that we do this on behalf of the people and to protect the interests of the people. But at the same time, the majority of the people is not for that action. The government has its own agenda based on private interest and influence. So look at yourself as the owner, manager of a company or a business. And you hire a group of employees, 63 employees, to manage your business. And those 63 employees, they go off and they do what they want. And when you call meetings or request meetings, they don't come. When you ask them for a report, they don't come. When you give them, they don't give you your reports. When you give them targets, they don't meet the targets. They're generally unresponsive and they're even rude and hostile towards you. They hire security to keep you out of the premises or keep you in the premises, depending on the type of business. Would you want that employee around, or would you seek to fire that employee, or those groups of employees or employees in that group who behave in that way? Would you want to hire somebody and have them treat you like that? That is the exact same way your government is an employee of you, because all of us couldn't run the affair of the country at the same time. So we said, you know what, let us find somebody and give them the job to do it and then monitor them. And they have gone rogue. So what is our legal recourse now that they have gone rogue? We definitely need to prosecute them for whatever crimes they have committed. And the UIC will do that. The UIC has always said that it will hold every politician, past and present, who has been found to be involved in wrongdoing. We will hold them accountable. And when we say we, here's what people are going to say. Oh, the UIC is planning a witch hunt. The UIC is planning to attack political opponents. No, we have a policing system. And when government interference leaves that system by virtue of a UIC government, the police will be free to follow leads that implicate even a politician. You understand? And that is the problem. Our political directorate leave loopholes in the systems so they can exploit it through their very, very high paid legal minds. You can look at all those who have faced the law, who are politically connected, whether they have shot a child, and witnesses, several witnesses could attest to it, whether they have been accused of pilfering the government coffers, the people's coffers, or whatever the accusation, and they never faced the law on it. A few have resigned, but none have gone to jail. One politician go to jail in Jamaica, right? And we know who that was. And all the others since then, like they signed treaty with each other for rob we blind. And of course that is what it is. Both parties are the same thing. The PNP is out now telling people that, oh, they're an alternative to the government. But they sat in parliament weak, inept, and definitely castrated, and watch the JLP roll over poor Jamaicans, because they didn't do rich Jamaicans that way. They didn't go to the gated communities, because I know for a fact of people in gated communities who had their big party, their big do-up during the pandemic. And the politician that was popping champagne and toasting was just one such example. There are others. And because the law is illegal and those guys have them big laws, police, the little lonely concept go to their gate and knock on that they have in an illegal gathering, especially in their gated community. They have created two Jamaica, one for the have and one for the have nots. UIC will create one Jamaica where, regardless of your financial or social status, you will face the law the same way. Right? It is a simple premise, a simple plan. And why can we say it? Because we are unblemished. Unblemished by all that is happening. Have you ever seen the documentary, The Shooting of Bob Marley? That documentary pull no punches, and anybody that hasn't seen it, look it up. It's on all the major channels. It's on YouTube. It's on Netflix. It's all around. They pull no punches in accusing the Jamaica Labour Party and their then leader of importing guns into Jamaica and arming gangs against the PN that time. Right? So we know that the criminals have their control, the control of the politicians. But the politicians, the British ambassador, the what do they call him? The consul general, I think, or there's another term for it. But that the chief British ambassador on the island has said that they are aware. Yes, the great British intelligence is aware of Jamaican politicians involved in drugs and gun running. And when a Jamaican talk about politicians who are openly wealthy while holding a civil service job, person say, yo, bad mind, you bad mind. We need to stop being tribal and be smart. If the politician is using his office to act corruptly, it taints the country. And if he's using his office to steal from the country, he's stealing from you. He's stealing from everybody. But most importantly, he's stealing the future of your children and your grandchildren. Will you have that? Why you think Cornwall Regional can't done? Because the money will never be enough, because all of them friends have to get for their money. Even the Prime Minister is not immune to that kind of accusation. His one-time friend and confidant has accused them of acting in a similar manner, similar corrupt manner in the matters of the St. Anne lands that they want to mine out from under the Maroons. I didn't say it. His friend and confidant said it. And like my great grandmother used to tell me, God bless that woman. If fish come from river bottom and say deep, believe him. Right? But we are willing to forget, or I should ask if we are willing to forget all these things, all these wrongs against us while we suffer, while we are hungry, while we are in need. They are flossing and graphing, as one politician would say, and we are suffering for it. They live high on our dime. There's a saying from literature that I like, that a rich king in a poor country is no king at all. And I'll tell that to every politician. If you want good for your country, then you want good for everybody in that country, not just the light skinned few or the privileged few. And the UIC don't encourage biases. We encourage everyone to be open and respectful of everyone, for everyone to be protected under the law equally, for your right to life, liberty, and property to be equally protected. And that is the difference between the UIC and the other colonial parties. That is why they don't want the UIC to be heard, because they don't want people to realize the kind of usury that exists in their system, and the fact that we, the UIC, is seeking to unite the people under one common goal. The common cause in the past was self-determination, and they tricked us and hijacked that process. They tricked us and hijacked that process, and now we're paying for it. We trusted our leaders then, and they used their position of trust and exploited this country. Now, we have seen it over what, 77 years, going 78 years? 60 of that is quote unquote so called independence. Are we going to allow it? Are we going to have them continue to use us, rob us, beat us, maim us, and then use the judiciary to tell lie on us? Civil servants, what career civil servants are looking to leave office rich and given extended contracts and extended term because they serve these quote unquote megalomaniacs who are so called leaders. It is time we realize that we need to change the system. And when we change the system to one that the UIC proposes, that allows checks and balances along all areas of representation, then Jamaica will be on a path to betterment. But you know, the UIC always talk about the path to betterment. Here's something that the UIC has always said that persons need to pay attention to. The day when the UIC becomes your government and the UIC institute changes to put you in charge of your destiny and you in charge of a government that is responsive to your needs, those who don't want that kind of power in your hands, those who don't want you to elevate above your circumstance, will do all that they can to undermine, detract, and tear down. And what will your response be? Your response can't be as lukewarm as it is today, where you are afraid to contribute, you're afraid to join, you're afraid to openly support because you don't want anybody to know. Imagine if that kind of reserved nature existed during the struggles for emancipation from physical slavery. We wouldn't have gotten anywhere. So now that the struggle is for independence from financial slavery, from social slavery, so let's put it all together and call it socio-economic slavery. Let's not be reserved. Let us call them out. Let us say we will not burn your fields or your buildings or your businesses like our ancestors did, but we won't be enslaved by you. We will be given equal opportunity, equal access, and equal protection under the law. We want no handouts from you, but to be able to access the same tools of economy that you have access to. Simple and straightforward, isn't it? So let's do that. No bow and scrape thing, no beg thing. The Prime Minister went to the US begging, as usual, and came back with a bag of goodies. We don't support that kind of begging. All that can be done from the resources of the people. I drove through Jamaica 2 weeks ago, from St. Elizabeth all the way through the hills, going all the way back to St. Mary. It was a beautiful drive, and while some of it was in the dark of night, what I was able to see made me smile. Acres and acres of land under cultivation. It means that Jamaica is willing to be self-sufficient. If only we had leadership that was thinking. If only we had leadership that wasn't too busy posing on the global stage and pretending and to be, but instead look at how to uplift their people, we would be in a far better place. And that is why Marcus Garvey, birth of the UIC, that is why his philosophy runs in the vein of the UIC, where uplifting Jamaicans, networking Jamaicans, and then the Caribbean, and then all black men and women in the diaspora runs deep in the veins of the UIC. We are not part of the colonial structure. We weren't created in a dark room in 60 and 62 to win independence and wrestle power from the people on behalf of the white man. We were created in the heart of the economic struggle of the 20th century, where people wanted economic equality because they now realize that while the land barons are gone, the money barons still remain. And they hoard the wealth of the country in different ways. At one point, they were buying up all the government investment they can find. And now they're buying up all the private investment, and they're coming together to cartelize the way business is done, so that way you and I can't get in. And they put in a lot of roadblocks in our way, a lot of bureaucratic roadblocks. And the UIC will tear all of that down. That's why they don't want you to hear about us. But tell me, how they say Jamaica is ranked in the top 10 in doing business, ease of doing business. Do you believe that? Have you ever tried doing business in Jamaica? I've gone to the tax office to get a tax compliance certificate to start a business, and it was a nightmare. And I don't have to tell you what it is like to face these damaged civil servants who the government has damaged them, damaged their good nature by exploiting them and turning them loose on the public. From the police to the nurses to the doctors to the clerks and the tax offices, because the government maintains a policy that allows high inflation to eat away at their little earnings, a system that excludes them from real substantive socio-economic change. If they buy a house, it devalues and the interest rate is high and the borrowing terms are steep, so they struggle to maintain that mortgage. You have to wake up angry when you realize that you have to give your soul to a business to maintain a roof over your head, where you can't even buy groceries despite the position you hold. And when you look in the same system, there's someone that is living high on the hog, as they would say, and that person isn't worth the salt in their blood because that job was bequeathed to them by connections. And this was pointed out in an audit at the Metro Transport System, the JUTC. It was found out to be the same case with a member of parliament giving his advisor a job that he's wholly underqualified for. And there are dozens of stories of this. Dozens and dozens of stories of this kind of nepotism. Now, our background masters from back in the day, they sit in their parliament, in their offices, having the best of governance and leaving us to fight amongst ourselves. And politicians have declared it. Oh, politics in Jamaica is two hostile tribes perpetually at war for scarce benefits and spoils. And you heard that and you're not insulted that your politician is declaring the political system, the system that you choose to govern your country, as a war, and declaring the assets of the country scarce benefits and spoils. You're not insulted and you have not drummed them out of office. You have not declared them persona non grata in politics in Jamaica and the island, for a matter of fact. We need a sense of pride as black people, and the UIC want to return us to that place where we understand that as an African descendant, we are coming from great and noble people who had great libraries before the Europeans even conceived of creating a structure out of their language. That we developed algebra, mathematics, geometry. It came out of Africa before they have declared Hippocrates as the father of modern medicine. That's not true. Modern medicine came from the term chemet, and it was chemet tree. And throughout the world, while the white crusaders were trying to conquer the Middle East and as much as they can, people were journeying from near and far to Kemet, now Egypt, to learn chemistry, which became modern medicine. So understand that we are great and powerful people. Understand that we should be insulted when our politicians tell us that we have to live in debt, that our kids have to owe well over $200,000 US at birth because the country doesn't have any resources. In 1962, in the 1960s, as a matter of fact, Jamaica was blessed with resources. Bauxite was one of the biggest things we had. But as usual, our politicians were short-sighted. They didn't seek to get into the value-added chain of the business. They allowed the money baggers, the carpet baggers, the robber barons to come and say, we will take your raw material and send you the refined goods at a good price. And take their word for it. And now that the prices of the finished products are sky high, we are paying those sky high prices. While if we invested in creating an infrastructure to refine those ores, we would be reaping all along that value added chain. But you'll never hear them talk about it. They tell you how much money we earn from the extraction industry. And the extraction industry is unsustainable. It damages the land. And Jamaica has land as a finite resource. We're an island. And even if we were an island as large as Australia or as large as the continent of Africa, land would still be finite and need to be cared for. And that's why the UIC is not a believer in the extraction industry. We don't believe the extraction industry is viable. But we do believe that we should look at innovations to get away from it, whether it's precious minerals or petroleum products. Our universities are just churning out graduates with degrees, and they take flight to go to other countries because our universities are not developing themselves as a center of excellence. They are not working universities where innovation is encouraged, where someone can have an idea and a thesis, write that thesis, and then go to that working university and work on that technical through that thesis and bring a product. The last innovation was cattle, was in cattle breed TP Lekki. The other chemist that, for example, extracted medicine from glaucoma, most of his research wasn't local. Most of his research wasn't local. While his product may be local, his research wasn't local. What will we do to change all of that? A government that is happy to jump on a plane and go to Uncle Tom with other world leaders and pretend that we're someone, we're a country that we're not, or we're going to work hard to develop our country. There's a leader that took office in Africa. I don't remember who it is, but don't take my word for it. Do your own research. And in 4 years of being in office as president, he did not travel. He focused on building his country's economy. And now his country's economy is thriving. Paul Kagame, Rwanda, that's it. And he's scheduled to visit Jamaica. This is the first sensible state visit that we have hosted in a very long time, in decades. So he's scheduled to be here in Jamaica, and we look forward to him being here, our African brother. Rwanda is one of the fastest growing economy in Africa, and there are several things we can learn from them. But UIC prefers the self-sustained model of Singapore, where we and Singapore started on this path at the same time, and they're way ahead of us by leaps and bounds. Way ahead of us. So there's something to be learned there, my fellow Uniteds. The long and short of all of this rambling is this: change needs to come. It is inevitable. And those who fear change will fight against change. And the fear of change is because change will strip them of the control that they have over your lives. I like to say your lives because I hate to think that my life is controlled. I do everything to be out of their system, above their system, away from their system. Even as an employed person, I give myself enough latitude to be self sufficient. So when my employer tries to put me in a stronger hold, for example, when they try to tell me that I need to take a certain medicine, take a certain joke, I was able to proudly say to my employer, I'm not interested. And thankfully, my employer respected my right and my choice. But if my employer didn't, I would be very contented walking away because I've created alternatives for myself. The UIC wants every Jamaican to have an alternative, wants every Jamaican to be able to stand up, be proud. And to do that, we need leadership that understands that and will create the circumstances for that. After 77 years, the two colonial party has not done that. It's either they can't, but they do things that they want to. We know that, so we know that's not it. Or they won't. I think that one is it. They won't because they fear your independence, your sovereignty, your education,